Hi, I'm Lisa Bradshaw from Urban Flower Collective, and today I want to show you how to make this beautiful wafer paper honesty. It looks amazing on a boho cake, or it looks great on its own, just up a more minimal cake, or it looks great in a vase. You know, it looks really nice. It's a nice thing to have in your toolkit. So I'm just going to move this cake out of the way so I don't break it, and we'll get cracking. So we don't need many things at all for this tutorial. So we're going to need at least a sheet of wafer paper, and then we're going to need some florist wire. I'm going to use 26 gauge and some 22 gauge wire as well. And then all we need is a pair of scissors, a tiny little paintbrush, some kind of blade or tiny little scissors, a nice fat dusting brush. I use a makeup brush, they're brand new, but I use makeup brushes to do my dusting with. And then you're going to need a brown, either gel colour or petal dust, and a very pale gold. I've gone for Roxy and Rich Gold Pearl, and it's a really nice sort of shimmery hint of gold, and some dipping solution. So that's all we need. So let's get started. I'm going to move these things out of the way. So taking your wafer paper, I'm just going to fold it in half and fold it again. Depends on how big you want these honesty pods to look, but I think it's nice to have them in a variety of sizes. You could always cut this wafer paper out with a hole punch, with a round hole punch, but I like a more organic feel, so I like to make them look a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this into squares, like so, just to make it easier. Like that. And then I'm just going to cut out some circles or ovals. So it depends, as I say, how big or small you want these. I tend to just fold the paper and cut. I'll keep those in piles because they will go together. Same again here, I'm just going to cut these, and it's pretty easy to cut these out, and you can cut lots at a time, as you can see. So do make them different sizes and different shapes if you can, just to add a little bit of interest. Try and keep this area clean. Same again. So just cutting a few out. What should do for now. So now I'm going to take my 26 gauge wire, and you don't really need wire cutters for this because it's so fine. You can just cut this with scissors. I'm going to cut each bit into 6 pieces because the stalks don't need to be very long on these at all. So I've got my 6 pieces there. Now, taking 2 pieces that are the same, so that's why we're keeping them in piles here. We're going to take 2 pieces that are absolutely the same shape. I've got a tiny little bowl of water here. You can use a brush for this, but I find I get more control and less water on the paper if I use just a finger. So what you don't want to do is oversaturate your wafer paper because it just dissolves, it just disintegrates. So I'm just going to tap a little bit of water on my finger and just run it over one side of that wafer paper petal. I'm going to place my 26 gauge wire just about there, and I'm going to stick the other one over the top of it and press down with a damp finger. Now, because that's a little bit wet, it may crinkle up a little bit, which is great. That's what we want. So you can see how easy and quick this is to do. So the more water you put on, the more crinkly it'll be, but that adds a lot of interest to it. It makes them all look a little bit different. Sometimes they'll curl in. If you want to wet it a little bit more, just, you know, the tiniest little dab you can do, and they'll dry really nicely. So you need quite a few of these to make an impact. So a whole sheet of wafer paper should do you a nice spray of honesty. but you know, the more the merrier, keep going. It's a great thing just to have in your toolkit. And the beauty of this is it's not going to, you know, if you keep it dry and it doesn't get wet, it's going to last for ages. So if you've got a cake to make, you can make this well in advance. Just keep it in a box, or you know, keep it somewhere where it's not going to be prone to humidity, and that's going to be great. So that's it for now. I'm going to continue doing this. I'll leave you now because I've shown you how to do this bit, and I'll come back and show you how to put the final touches to it. Hi, so now we've got our wafer paper petals all cut out, and we've got our wires in them. I'm going to show you just how to paint them up and get them looking a bit more realistic. So what I've got here is some fractal colour Terra Brown. You can use whatever brown you want. This is quite a dark brown. If you're going for a paler cake, then maybe you want to use a paler brown. And I've also got some Roxy and Rich gold pearl, and that's a really nice sort of very, very pale goldy colour. This is because the honesty I'm making today is going to go on a cake that's more sort of neutrals. If you're going for a more stark cake, you might want to do a pearly white on there, or a silvery colour if you want. You know, it's up to you, just make it tone in, but all you want is a bit of a shimmer on these petals. So I'm going to take some of this Terra Brown, I'm going to pop it in a bowl, and I'm going to add some dipping solution or rejuvenator spirit or vodka if you haven't got either of those. We're just going to make a little paste with this. If you haven't got brown petal dust, you could use brown gel colour as well. But you want something that's going to evaporate quickly to mix the colour with. You don't want to mix it with water, otherwise it'll disintegrate your petals. So this rejuvenator spirit will evaporate and just leave the petal dust on here. So I've got a really tiny little brush here, and if you can see, I'm just going to tap it around the edge of the petal. So I'm not painting on the petal, I'm just tapping it right round the very edge here. And it'll go on both sides, you can see. So this just gives us the outline like you'd see on Real Honesty. Now this is where you don't want a really round shape, you know, you want your petals to be a little bit misshapen, just to make it look a bit more realistic. So you can see that's gone on both sides just because I've done it around the edge. And then if you look at Real Honesty, it's usually got a couple of tiny little lines coming in like so. At different parts. So just have a little look at pictures of Honesty on the internet for some inspiration. But usually there's a couple of little lines coming in like that. Make sure you do it on both sides because we're going to try and give this as much movement as possible, and we'll probably see both sides in our little arrangement. So make sure you've put the lines on both sides. And then on some of them, not all of them, I'll just take a blade, an X-Acto knife, a tiny blade, a little pair of nail scissors would do, little dressmaker scissors, just something. I just want to make a little hole in them. So often Honesty's a bit cracked and a little bit, it's got little holes in it. It's just to give it a bit of a more authentic look really. So if you see here, I'm literally popping the blade in. You can do this with a little pair of scissors, just giving it a little twist around. And then I'm just going to highlight that with a bit of this brown as well. So you can see it's got that kind of aged look. Make sure it goes on both sides. And that's all there is to it for the painting really. So that looks quite nice, doesn't it? And I'll do one more just to show you. So we're just going to tap round the edge. We're not painting on it, we're just tapping around the edge, so it'll go on both sides. This saves a bit of time. And we don't want a really thick line on this, we just want the very edges to be coloured. And yeah, I mean these last forever, but if you get them wet or you get them humid, then they will die basically. But the beauty of these are if you're transporting a cake a long way, they're not going to break. You know, it's not like if you made it from sugar paste, it might cling together and you know you've got much more chance for breaking. This is pretty robust. So got our two little lines, same on the other side. And I don't put a hole in all of them, but you know, you can put one at a random place, and I just think it gives that more authentic look and adds a little bit of interest. So I'll paint the rest of these in a moment, but I'm just going to show you the next step. So I've got, as I say, Roxy and Rich Gold Pearl here. I'm just going to take a really fat brush. It's a makeup brush, brand new makeup brush obviously, and I like to use that for dusting. So I'm going to just take a bit of this dust, this petal dust. I should really have a piece of parchment down here because I'm going to make a bit of a mess. And I'm just going to rub it over each petal like so, and it just gives it a really nice shimmer. Hopefully it's picking up on the camera, but it just ups it a little and gives it that shimmer, that real honesty's got. So as I say, you don't need to use a gold one, you could use a silver one, you could use just a pearly white as well if the cake's going to be white. So I'm going to leave you to carry on. I'll continue and do this as well. I'll finish off all these petals and I'll come back and show you how to wire it up. So now I've got all our petals painted up and shimmered up. We're going to put them together and start to create this branch of honesty. So what I'm going to take is some half width tape. I'm going to take white just because I want to paint the branches the same colour as I've used on the outside of the petal, just so it looks more joined up. You could use brown tape if you want. You could leave it just white if it's going to go on a white wedding cake, for example. But we just need half width tape because these are very small wires. So if you've never used florist tape before, it doesn't feel very sticky to start with. If you give it a pull, it's impregnated with glue and this activates the glue. So give it a little stretch. We're going to take each petal and just tape up this wire just so we can paint it. If you're going to leave it white, then you can just leave the wires white if you want. I have seen some brown wires around. They're pretty hard to get hold of, but I just like to use the same colour as I've used on the outside at the end, and I'll show you what to do. So anyway, let's get these taped up. So this doesn't take too long at all. I'll do 4 just to show you. So as I'm twiddling around this petal, you can see I'm just squeezing the tape onto it. You feel a little bit fingers and thumbs when you first start to do this, but like anything, it gets much easier with practice. So yeah, we'll just need this half width tape for this. So I've done 4 petals there to show you. Next, I'm going to take my thicker gauge wire. So I've got a 22 gauge wire here. It just gives it a little bit more substance, so we can bend this when it's on the flower, or sorry, we can bend it when it's on the cake or in a vase or whatever, just to get a nice shape going. And it's a little bit firmer, so it'll be a bit more stable than the 26 gauge. So this is green. You can use white, you can use whatever you want, but I'm just going to cover this with the tape again. So you can see I'm just covering that up with the tape. A little bit more. Just snap some more off. So I'm just going to make this all white. So it's quite quick and easy to do. Next, we're going to start with our petals, and we're just going to tape these on. So I'm going to tape one at the top. And if you look at some honesty for configuration, but basically we're just going to stick these on. And this is why we paint both sides, because we're going to angle them in different directions in different ways. So I've done a few more already. So what I've done is I've taped another 2 wires up already, just to show you how many you get from one sheet of wafer paper. So try and intersperse it with larger and smaller ones just to give it a bit more interest, and we'll put these into a nice shape when we're finished taping them up. Get some more tape. So these are great filler flowers. They're great you know, to use as nice pale foliage on any cake. They look great in any kind of display, to be fair. And if you use real honesty, it's very, very brittle. You know, it really is quite a delicate petal. So these are much more sturdy as well. And as you can see, really quick to make. So I'm just going to take that white tape all the way down this length. So that gives me a nice long length to be able to stick into an arrangement or to put on a cake. So once I've done all that, I'm going to just organise these out a little bit. So you can see I'm just pulling them out and making them into more interesting shape. Now once I've done that, I'm going to take my brown petal dust that I used just to paint the honesty with, add a bit of dipping spirit, rejuvenated spirit, vodka, whatever you're using, and I'm just going to paint these stems. Now if you've got an all white wedding cake, you can leave these white if you'd prefer. I've done that before as well, but I just like to add in that colour that we've already used on the honesty petal. And as I say, this will dry super quick. And I think it just ties in the branch with the petals if you use the same colour. So if you're using a lighter colour, then that's fine as well. And that is that. So you can see how quick and easy this is to make. You don't need many tools at all. You don't need any skill at all really to make this. Anyone can make it. And it looks really nice in an arrangement. So I'm going to show you the other two that I just wired up earlier. And this is the amount we got from one sheet of A4 wafer paper. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, then check out my other ones. I've done quite a few sugar flowers now, and I'm just starting to do sugar flowers in a box where you not only get the tutorial, but you also get the cutter set and the veiner, which makes it much easier for you to reproduce the flowers that you're learning about in the tutorial. So thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Give it a share, you know, and tag me in any pictures that you, and any arrangements that you make, any creations that you do with honesty on. Please give me a tag because I'd love to see what you're up to. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.